All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sharpening the Edge, week 4, and we are ready to kick this thing off. We are the Maize and Blue Review. You're looking at Brandon Justice and Lucas Reimink. I'm Dennis Fithian, and we are ready to go. Gentlemen, it's great to see you. We've got 9 picks coming everyone's way, and before we get to anything, let's just tell everybody how we did last week, which was better than the previous 3 weeks, and there you see it. Not so hot for me, but Lucas, 500 feels pretty good, and for Justice, 2 games above 500 feels great. What do you guys have to say for yourself on your selections?
I like mine.
500s.
I mean, a lot better than week 1.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's steady improvement. I think I've gotten better every week, so hopefully it keeps going.
I am enjoying myself making the picks, and it's entertaining watching it. I don't like losing. Nobody does, but I am having fun doing it. I'm just going to call you guys the experts until I get up there and get to 500. I am just here tagging along, but I will make some selections along the way. And like I said, it's like my jump shot. When I get hot, you guys better watch out. Right now, the first couple have not gone in. So I'm just trying. I need to maybe go take some layups stuff before I start, biting off more than I can chew. But with that, it is the start of Big Ten play. We pick Michigan, Michigan State, and the Lions every week that they're playing, and that starts us out in Ann Arbor. And it's number 4, Michigan, bringing in Maryland. The Wolverines are a 17-point favorite. Brandon, go ahead, kick it off. How do you see this game coming up tomorrow?
I think this is an exciting game from a betting perspective. I was just did the betting preview. I can't speak English right now. I just did the betting preview a moment ago, published that, and it was fun to look at this game because there's a lot of things that could happen. But to me, it's kind of an easy one to spell out. Maryland's the 3rd worst team in the Power 5 in penalties. They're over 10 a game. Michigan is the least penalized team. Michigan is at home. Michigan has the number 1 scoring defense. Maryland's passing defense is 100th in the country. They're giving up over 300 a game. J.J. McCarthy should have a field day. I like a lot of things here, but I am going to stick with the team total for Michigan as my pick, which is not the spread with the total. I know, a little bit of a tweak there. And you know me, I like to freestyle out here, but over 41.5 is where Michigan's team total is at. And I think they're going to clear that pretty easily, personally. I think this is like a 49-51 type of total for Michigan. I have it projected at 52-27 final, which is the over as well. But at 41.5, with my projection at 52, I think you're getting 11 points of value there, or 10.5 technically. So that's my pick there. The spread and total are tough for me. Why they're tough? Because I like using Sagarin after like 3 or 4 weeks of college football to kind of look at where those power ratings are at. And Sagarin is essentially like a computer program or a computer-based power ranking system that creates ratings for every team. And you can look at spreads and compare them and see where they're at. And Michigan and Maryland are at, I believe, 16.5 after They're at 16 after you're adding 3 points for Michigan being home. So that their difference in their rating is 13, but with Michigan being the home team, it's at 16. So that spread's kind of right where it should be at 16.5, 17. And then if you look at S&P Plus, they actually give Michigan like a 1 or 2 point advantage. Total wise, the projections on the Action Network are at 64, which is right on par with the line at 64.5. So I think Vegas did a tremendous job putting the lines out for this game at 16.5 and at 64.5. So I don't want to touch either of those, but I do think that they're fumbling with the team total. So I'll take Michigan over 41.5.
All right, little pat on the back for Vegas. You don't often hear that. Lucas, your pick for this Michigan-Maryland game.
I hear all the Vegas talk from Justice over there. I still think there's an error. The power ratings in Vegas, I don't believe they're fully accounting for how long the starters have played for Michigan. They have not played very deep into games, and I think that's kind of where I'm thinking the edge will show up in this game. So I'm going to take Michigan minus the 17. I think Maryland's going to be able to score, at least early on. It might take a couple series for the defense to figure out what Maryland's doing and then adjust to it. But I think over the course of the game, I think just Michigan's going to have too much offense. So I'll take Michigan minus 17.
All right. And I sent my official pick to Josh Henschke earlier this week. And then when I was looking at the staff predictions today, I thought that he had erred because I had looked at the score of 52-27. And then I saw Brandon Justice's name on it, which was actually my exact pick. We have bullseyed the
Wow.
exact same pick. We both have it at 52-27. So whatever that says, hey, we think Michigan's going to be able to score a lot, but we also think, like Lucas, that Maryland will be able to put some points up on the board. So there it is. But all three of us have Michigan covering. So we do have that. All right, let's go to a team that did not cover last week. That was Michigan State. They are at home. They limp home and with their 2-1 record, and they host the 3-0 Minnesota Golden Gophers. Surprising right now, maybe, Lucas, that this game has Minnesota as the 3-point favorite, even though they're on the road. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I bet on Michigan State last week. Justice was right on that game. I'm going to bet on Michigan State again this week. So I think this time they're a home dog, and I think it's sort of like a back against the wall type deal for Mel Tucker. They have a tough schedule coming up. They played the next four opponents. They're at Maryland, Ohio State, Wisconsin at home, and then at Michigan. So if they lose this game, it's really tough to see how many wins they get in these next four. So that's kind of like impending doom is upon them. I don't think this is where it starts though. I'm really not that impressed with what Minnesota's done. Like they've looked good against bad competition, but they've played New Mexico State, Western Illinois, and Colorado, who might be the worst Power 5 team in the country. So I'm not that high on Minnesota. Chris Ottman-Bell going down, being out for the year for Minnesota. He's their best receiver. I think that's a really big difference in this game for Minnesota. If Ottman-Bell were able to have a good day in the passing attack, I could see Minnesota covering the 3. But if you're catching 3 points with for Michigan State here at home without Chris Ottman-Bell, I like that. So I'll take Michigan State in the points.
I like it for all the people that are trashing Michigan's non-conference schedule. PJ Fleck saying, hold my drink. So that's pretty good. I picked Michigan State last week too, and I did it. It shows you what somebody very confident talking about a game can do. There's a new writer for The Athletic for Michigan State, and this guy was on Twitter, and a bunch of Spartan fans were retweeting him because he's like, I have looked at 8 computer models, and all of them like Michigan State, not only to cover, but to win the game outright. I was like, this guy is so confident in Michigan State, I'm going with him. Of course, that was the wrong play. But for some reason, I'm going back to Michigan State. Yeah, I'm not all that impressed with Minnesota either. I like the desperation factor of Michigan State being at home and feeling like their season could be over. Wouldn't be a bad thing. But I actually think Michigan State's going to win this game outright. That's why earlier this week I took them on the money line because I thought that line would move a lot, and actually it's moved the other way. So we'll see if we know what I'm talking about. But I'm taking Michigan State to win that game outright. Obviously, I'll take the 3 points. Justice, what about you?
This is interesting to me because Minnesota swung out to -3, 3-point favorites now on the road. And it opened, I think it was right around the other way, like 1.5, 2 in State's favor, and swung out to 3. So with the 3-point swing, I mean, really, Vegas is valuing this at a 6-point differential with Minnesota at -3, accounting for the 3 points. They're really a -6 here if you think about it in that perspective. So, and I just don't agree with that. I think Michigan State is potentially going to be without Jaden Reed and a couple of others in this game, and I think that's going to hurt them. But I don't see them losing by more than 3 points. So at 3, I think you're in a good spot. 2.5, I might bet if I had to bet Minnesota, I would at 2.5. But 3 and beyond, I got to side with State here at home. Again, this is one of those things where the computers are right around 81-79 in favor of Minnesota. So there's only a 2-point swing there. If you add the 3 on, that really should be a 5-point swing. So I guess if you're relying on, and that's a group of the computer, it's not just Segar and a couple others too. But if you're looking at that, then you're getting some value here. But I don't know. There's real life things to account for here. It's Michigan State playing at home, off of a tough road loss. I don't think Mel Tucker's like a bad coach. I think he still has plenty to prove, of course, with the contract that he has. But this seems like too many for Minnesota, who's as unproven as Michigan State, if not more, given their schedule coming into this game. So I'll take Michigan State in the points, and if they prove me wrong, or if Minnesota can prove me wrong, then I will bet them next week. That will be my bet with Minnesota. That'll be my side emotional bet with Minnesota. If they cover and beat me in this, I will then now believe in them and bet them next week.
Well, let's stay with the land of 10,000 lakes and go right back to you, Justice. You're looking like you're wearing those Minnesota Golden Gopher colors. But let's go to the pro team. The Vikings looked like crap last week. They limp home against the Lions, who you guys have both been on the first 2 weeks and have won both of those games. The Vikings favored by a big 6 points here against the Lions in a 1:00 kick. Let's go, Justice. Right back to you for Minnesota's, this time the pro version.
Yeah, I don't think anybody on the Lions can cover Justin Jefferson. I think they're going to have trouble with Dalvin Cook. The Lions had 2 really awesome weeks to start the season, and more power to them. But I think they run into a bit of a buzzsaw here. Minnesota off a loss. I just don't love it for Michigan. Tells you where my head's been all day. I don't like the matchup for the Lions at all. So I'll roll with the other side here for once, and that is betting against the Lions. I just think they're going to run out of gas this week, and Kirk Cousins is underrated, and the Vikings offense is such a mismatch for Detroit, in my opinion. And then I think Minnesota's defense isn't great, but it's good enough to handle a guy like Jared Goff, who I think is outperforming what we thought. But again, I'm not buying him right now, literally, quite yet. So just some more things to see. Not to mention, Lions might be without Hawkinson. The old line continues to be a lofty thing, and there's just too many things I don't know about the Lions going into this week. Whereas in the past 2 weeks, I felt like last week, Lucas and I were talking okay, if they're missing a couple of linemen against Washington, I still feel fine. Washington has too many holes, in my opinion, especially with the Lions at home. But in this instance, I just can't do it. So I will take the Vikings on the spread here.
Lucas, you in lockstep there with your Lion brethren?
I'm not going to touch that one. 6 seems like a good spread to me, so I don't really like either side there. But what I do like is the over 52.5. Really just because I think whoever wins this game is going to need to get to 30 points to win the game. And I would tend to lean it'd be the Vikings, but I don't think it's crazy if the Lions end up winning this game outright. But I'm not confident enough to pick it. I think there are major holes in both secondaries from what I've seen. And like Justice mentioned, I think Kirk is a pretty good quarterback. I think he'll bounce back after having a really rough week his last matchup in the primetime game with the weak Lions secondary coming into town. Justin Jefferson's really good. Dalvin Cook's really good. I think Minnesota gets back on track, probably wins. But what I like most is the over 52.5.
It's a good pick.
I've never seen Kirk Cousins play a worse game than last week. So you guys, I'm with you with the bounce back time. When a team, you have the kind of talent Minnesota does, and you're coming back home, it's kind of like you can't play back-to-back games like that. Certainly not a divisional game like this. So I think the Jefferson train gets going, and Cousins has to bounce back, or they might run him out of town if he plays like he did last week. And I'll take Minnesota. I don't like giving away 6 points. That's an awful lot, but I'll do it. 28-21 Vikings. All right, that gets us to where we pick 3 games. We can go college or pro. This is where we look at the entire menu and pick 3 of our favorite games. We got a lock coming up as well. Let's go right back up there to the top right screen in Justice, who has a trio of selections for you, and he's been picking the best out of all of us as well.
We starting with college or NFL?
Either way you want to go, you can mix bag it with your 3 picks if you want.
You know me. Okay. All right, I'm going to save that for best bet. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start with Duke. They're +7 right now. I just don't think that Kansas is this unequivocal world beater quite yet, to the point where we're giving them 7 points against the Duke team that's done well in their own regard and outperformed expectations. A touchdown favorite that's a lot of points. I think Kansas is more around 4.5, 3.5 for a game like this. The home swing is there. They covered against a good Houston team last week. I mean, they covered Houston's line against Houston last week is what I should say. So there's a lot of people buying Kansas. But folks, I bet on Marshall after they beat Notre Dame, and then they lost outright as 16.5 point favorites against 0-2 Bowling Green. So I have learned my lesson in bounce back situations. Kansas coming off of I guess you can't call Houston this huge emotional win, but from a program perspective, to be where they're at it's pretty emotional, the win they had last week. So coming off of that, public loves them. The line says so at 7, and I just can't take them that high. So I will take Duke +7, who I famously bet against when I took Northwestern. So this is just a fun little thing I'm doing, this little circus of betting and not betting teams. Elsewhere in a total, my first total of the day, I've got Indiana and Cincinnati over 57. And you guys know my little notebook. That's what I'm always looking at. Over 57. I think you can probably get this at like 56.5 in most books. I'm not quite sure. I would buy it up to like 58.5 though, because both teams' last 2 games have gone over. Indiana, Illinois was the only game for Indiana that went under, and that was because of Illinois' ball control game. I mean, they run the crap out of the ball. I think they had like 40+ rushing attempts that game. So I'm not really buying into that under as Indiana's season goes on. I think Indiana's defense is bad. Their whole team is bad. And therefore, I think there's going to be a lot of points. And then Cincinnati's offense, I think, is good enough to put up quite a majority of these points. So that's where I'm at. Cincinnati's last 3 games have gone over, and those lines are all in between 51 and 53. I understand this one's a bit higher at 57, but Indiana last week just cleared 61. So I will take the over there between Indiana and Cincinnati. And that is college, just to clarify, because I know there are 2 NFL teams also from those 2 cities. And then lastly, we'll shift over to the NFL, where I absolutely love Atlanta. I love the Falcons this week against the Seahawks. I think at +1, you're getting a ton of value. They are playing the Seahawks, right? I'm double checking.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Looked at 1,000 teams today, Danny. You got to give me a break. I'm taking Atlanta +1. 96% of the money's on them, 68% of the tickets. So, I mean, pretty sizable differential. I'm not one to be like, okay, 96% of the money's on them, so I'm going to bet it. But already having liked Atlanta going into looking at this game and then looking at where the bets are swinging, it just gave me more reason to pick them. I think Atlanta's better. Atlanta's offense is better than what people are giving it credit for. I think they're trying to, I mean, Arthur Smith is a nightmare as a coach, but if there's like any sort of adjustment there this week, like just the smallest bit of push out of them offensively, because they have the talent to do it, I think they're going to win this game comfortably if they do that. So
yeah, I'm not really proud to admit this, but I have both Kyle Pitts and Drake London on my fantasy team. So
well, Drake London's great. Kyle Pitts, huge disappointment. But Drake London's got like 25 targets through 2 weeks.
I knew when I picked him that I said, I don't like that. Right after I did it, I'm like, why am I picking 2, players that are on a bad team? I don't want to play them both each week. Of course, I want to play Pitts. I haven't played London, but now I need to trade. London is what needs to happen. All right, before we speculate on what else is in that little notebook of yours, let's go to Lucas Reimink for his 3 big plays of the week, college or pro.
Sure. So let's see. I'll start with the one where Justice and I don't disagree, because I have 2 that I think we do disagree on. So that'll be interesting. So I'm going to ride with Clemson Tigers here, -7. I just think stylistically it's a bad matchup for Wake Forest. Clemson's defense, specifically the defensive line, is one of the best in the country. I don't like the reason I think it's a stylistically bad matchup, like I mentioned, is the slow mesh RPO heavy offense that Wake likes to run pretty much relies upon freezing the linebackers and safeties in their spots. But then that really sort of gets blown up when the defensive line can just take your offensive line and just shove them all 3 yards into the backfield. That's sort of how I envision this game playing out. I think Clemson's going to be able to make them one-dimensional, and they're going to be able to dial up the pressure, put the pressure on Sam Hartman in passing situations, and make him uncomfortable. So I like Clemson -7 there. Then I'll go to USC. Bet on them last week. I'm going to do it again. Don't really care about the public money or the betting trends. There's a common opponent here with Oregon State and USC. They both have played Fresno State. Oregon State beat them by 3. USC beat them by 28. So while that's not gospel of who's the better team, I do think it shows that USC is capable of putting teams away when they have the chance to do so. And I think USC in this game is going to have another big mismatch in the skill positions, specifically quarterback and wide receiver, that Oregon State just can't handle. USC also got the running game going last week, which is really encouraging, because I think that's really big for how their entire season will play out. They ran for 230 yards and got 6 yards per carry. So I like USC -6 there. And then I'm going to do Kansas -7. Undefeated.
I saw your
powerhouse
face
here.
when I said it too. I kind of figured this was going to happen.
That's why I was laughing, because I'm going to pick against you. So Kansas -7. 2 undefeated teams. Kansas. The reason I like Kansas is they're very multiple in their rushing attack when you watch them. It's a really tough run scheme to fit and to fit right consistently. And they rank 7th nationally in rushing offense. They get like 260 yards a game. Duke is 51st nationally, despite not really playing anyone with a pulse. Like Northwestern's the best team they've played. And then the other 2 teams are like North Carolina A&T and Temple. So I don't really love the statistic there with Duke's rush defense with the Kansas rushing attack. So that's where I think Kansas has the edge. I think they're going to be able to win this game by double digits. So Kansas -7.
I feel like we're sitting around doing an NCAA tournament preview show with you guys. Like, I like Duke, I like Kansas. What are you guys talking about? All right, those are your 3 picks. I'm going to the big Florida-Tennessee game, number 20 Florida at Tennessee. 10.5 points. The Vols are favored by. I'm tempted. I'm not going to do it yet. I'm not going to say I'm going to do it right here, but I might take Florida outright on the money line to go into Knoxville and win that game. But I'll gladly take the 10.5. Anthony Richardson, hand him off the ball more than 10 times. I guarantee a victory for Florida. He hasn't had 10 carries in the last 2 games. Over 10 carries, it's a guaranteed victory. I love that guy. Give him the ball. Florida plus 10.5 at Tennessee. I think Rutgers taking on Iowa at home in Piscataway is going to be a very low-scoring game, something like 13-7. I think Iowa may win that, but I'll gladly take the 8 points and the Scarlet Knights. So give me Rutgers plus 8 at home against Iowa. And for my 3rd game, I am going to go to the pros. And you might not like the Colts because they haven't won a game yet, but I like the desperation factor in the pro game. And the Colts are at home. They look like crap. They got to win this game against the Chiefs. I like the Colts to win it outright, but I'll take the 5.5 against Kansas City. Give me the Colts plus 5.5 against the Chiefs at your place, Lucas Oil.
Lucas Oil.
Let's go right to Lucas with his lock of the week.
Sure. So you just mentioned the Tennessee and Florida game. I have a play that's my lock of the week in this game. It's Tennessee first quarter -3.5. So interesting pick here. Last year the Tennessee Volunteers were like 169-44 in the first quarter. They led the country in first quarter scoring margin, so they really like to jump ahead. And then once teams start to sort of figure them out, they sort of lose that advantage over the course of the game. So that's why I don't really love the full game spread here with the 10.5. That being said, if I had to pick a side, I would lead Tennessee, so I would fight Dennis on that one. But I mostly because I don't know if Anthony Richardson is really healthy. I think the guy we saw against Utah has been different than the guy we saw against Kentucky. It looked like he got banged up to me in that Kentucky game, didn't play overly well since he got hit in a particularly tough spot. So I think he might be banged up, but I don't love the spread for the full game. So I'll go Tennessee -3.5 in the first quarter. My best bet.
Well, we don't have to mess around with the juice. We can just play right here between the two of us, and we'll be able to bet that one. All right, that's not a bad play. A first quarter lock with the Vols -3.5. I like that. Let's see if Justice is able to top that from both the uniqueness of the selection and the actual selection.
All right, so my lock this week is going to be Oregon State +6 against USC. Corvallis, big Corvallis guy. The game is at Oregon State. Some books have it at 5.5, so it is moving into Oregon State's direction. Both teams are 3-0 against the spread. Boise State and Fresno State are the wins for Oregon State. Those are the 2 bigger covers of the 3 they've played. The home field swing in Corvallis means that this is actually like a 9-point game, according to Vegas, which makes more sense than 6, obviously. But they've had to swing because of the amount of love coming in on Oregon State and how much sharp money is in on Oregon State. And every time that line starts to leak out past 6.5, it leaks all the way back down. And now it's down to 5.5. And it's been pretty steadily moving with Oregon State, and they've got an explosive offense, and it's been fun to watch on screen all year. USC, of course, has a high-powered offense. We know that. I was on the over in USC and Fresno last week, but like that sucked really bad. Like I really thought they were going to clear it, and then they just decided to stop scoring entirely. Like both teams, like not just Fresno. But I think this is a game where Oregon State is like nothing to lose type of setting. They have a talented team this year. Oregon State was a team that I liked going into the year, and I think that they've proven why. They've gotten some preseason love from people this year so far, and I think that carries over at home against USC, where no, they don't win, but this USC team is kind of like unprovoked so far, like a lot of teams in college football. And at a 6-point spread at home, I think you're getting some value in Oregon State against USC, which sounds crazy to say, but based on what we've seen with the trends and based on what we've seen in the first 3 games, Oregon State's ability to cover the spread, this isn't like a one-off type of setting. Oregon State should be a good team. They should be a bold team this year. And I think they stay within that mark of 6 points in this one and probably lose right around that 3 to 5 point mark. And so that's where I see it. I really like the value in Oregon State. I think the offense is going to give USC's defense more fits than any other. I do think USC outlasts them. You might want to take the over. I think it's inflated, though. So I'm sticking with Oregon State +6.
I saw a tweet today on USC. They had a wide receiving core a couple of years ago of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Pittman, who's playing for the Colts, Michael Pittman, and Drake London, the aforementioned wide receiver for the Falcons. A pretty good trio. We're talking about football. I just want to clarify because I know Oregon State's really good in baseball, and I know you love baseball. But
No,
you're picking them in football, right? That's what. Not baseball.
Shockingly.
Okay.
What's crazy is we are on a show, a betting show, a college football betting show, centric. We do NFL too, but a college football centric betting show. And we have selected Kansas, Duke, and Oregon State in the same episode. Now, granted, Kansas and Duke are playing each other, but 2 different entities of which none of us communicate before the show about what we're picking. And it's truly like, hey, take a look at the board and do whatever you want. The only ones you have to pick are Michigan, Michigan State, and the Lions. Other than that, it's a free-for-all, right? So for us to have those 3 teams on our board, that is shocking for the college football world, I would say, in 2022. But, bingo sheets, they're getting filled quickly.
Well, for my lock, I'm going to the pro game. This one just jumped out right off the screen to me. That means I am going to be jumping on this one. I think this is a free money play. The Bills -5.5. What they've done these first 2 games. The Dolphins, I know they had the great comeback and everything else, but I'm not calling it.
The Dolphins well.
This week, I'm going to pound the Bills all day long. I think they'll easily win this one by double figures. I might get into the alternate line type world and see what I can get at 9.5, but I'll definitely take them at -5.5. I like the Bills, the Billies for a lock going down to South Florida and taking care of the Dolphins. There you go. Von Miller's not going to have Tua. Tua's not going to be able to stand back there. He was against the Ravens. All right, that gets us through some parlays and props, and I'll go first on a prop. I took J.J. McCarthy last week, and I don't want to say too bad for Michigan, but they were doing great in the kicking game. The field position was awesome. They got a kick return for a touchdown. If it wasn't for all that, I think J.J. McCarthy would have gone over his total and would have given me a W. But I think the over 260.5, McCarthy's going for 300 in this game. So at least when I statted it all out, so when I looked at the number of 260, I said I'll easily take this prop over 260.5 for J.J. McCarthy. Lucas, what about your prop?
Sure. My prop, I'm going to go with the Michigan game as well. I'm going to go with Blake Corum to score 2 touchdowns. I just think it's really good value, +130. I think Michigan, Donovan Edwards still a little bit banged up, so I think they're going to have to lean on Corum here a little bit more than they have in the non-conference schedule. And I think they're going to want to really establish the run against the Maryland team that I don't think is particularly good at stopping the run. So they can set up J.J. McCarthy to have a good day as well.
Only 2 touchdowns for Corum?
Yeah, just the 2. +130, so I like the value.
All right. I wonder what it is for him to score 4 or 5. He might jump on that. All right. I like that one myself. Might have to make a note of that. Corum, 2 touchdowns. Let's go to Justice for his prop.
So I have to add a second one per usual, not because I want to, shockingly this time, but because I think I might have to. So my pick was J.J. McCarthy's rushing yards. It's listed on the Action Network at over 16.5. And I think Maryland's pass rush is going to force him to escape the pocket a little bit more than he has these first 3 weeks. Probably a lot more, because that's not saying anything, because he pretty much hasn't had to outside of like maybe 1 or 2. So regardless of him being rushed out of the pocket or not, we know the kind of rushing threat he is. Now, we've seen him really start to settle into the pocket these past 2 games as the starter with far less rushing yards than he had when he came in as a decoy. or whatever you want to call it, as a rushing threat last year. But at 16.5, I think you're just getting a ton of value. We know it's not even a think thing. We know JJ McCarthy can make up for that in one attempt. Like he's done it this year. He has a 20-yard touchdown run, right? So I think you're getting a lot of value there. The only problem with that is that I've been on my phone trying to make sure that line's available somewhere because it's on the Action Network, but finding the actual prop has been difficult for me. I'm trying to find – the only thing I can find is him as a touchdown score and his over in his passing yards. Have not been able to find his rushing yards yet. So because of that, I will make up for it. Breece Hall over 6.5 rushing attempts is like the biggest bucket of all time, in my opinion. Breece Hall has been carrying the ball more and more each week. I think he might have had less maybe with Carter there last week, but Breece Hall is active in this offense. He's not active to the point where he's going to get 10 plus carries confidently, but like he very well could get 10 plus carries in a game like this. And so at 6.5, I think you're getting a lot of value there. The pro line, which is the projection that the Action Network does, their projected rush attempt for him is 10. So, or I'm sorry, it's at 8. So at 6.5, I think you're getting a 1.5 point value there. And at 8, I think you're even getting value because I really think this is a game where he ends up with right around 10. And I got his stats right here. And last week he had 7 attempts, and the week before that 6. So that 6.5 line is really just averaging out his first 2 games, which is fair. But Breece Hall, rookie year, game 3, gradually going to get the higher snap share than Carter, in my opinion. So I will ride the Breece Hall 6.5 rush attempt line. And if that McCarthy line's available, I would absolutely just close my eyes and bet whatever is on there because I think he surpasses 16.5 rather easily. So.
I'll do my best Robert Saleh impersonation. I'm going to keep that receipt on Breece Hall. I'm going to keep that receipt, see how you end up doing on that one. All right, that gets us to the parlay game. We can also say hi to our recruiting editor. It's a big weekend with I would love to see a prediction to see, what the odds are if Michigan could pick up a verbal commitment from Nick Harbor. Zach Libby is coming in with his play of the week, Utah minus 15.5 over Arizona State. Well, they probably have all the play. They got the playbook and everything that's been sent over to the staff over there. I like that one too. Zach, I'm with you on that. Maybe Herm Edwards this time is going to be sending all the plays over. That's what apparently happened with his staff last week with Eastern Michigan. They sent the playbook over to Chris Creighton. So some crazy stuff going on there. I see why Zach is making the pick. Give me the odds on Harbor committing this week. That'd be something I'd bet on. My parlay is up on the screen, and I'll read it for those of you that are listening to the podcast. I like the Colts on the money line over the Chiefs. I like the Packers on the money line over the Bucks. I like the Broncos at home on the money line over the 49ers. And Monday night, I like the Cowboys to go in the MetLife and beat the Giants outright. So I have the Cowboys on the money line. All 4 of those come in 29.70. Just let me hit one of these parlays all year long, and it'll all pay off. And I'm thinking this could be the one right here. Colts, Packers, Broncos, Cowboys, outright for the 4-pack. For Fithian's parlay of the week. All right, Lucas, that takes us to your parlay of the week.
Yeah, so I already talked about the Michigan game, why I like that spread. I just think they're going to eventually pull away, so I like them to cover the 17. I'll include it in my parlay here. I'm going to go Kansas minus 7 as well. Talked about why I like that. The rushing attack, I feel pretty confident in that one, so I'm going to include that in the parlay. Then I'm going to include my lock, the best bet. Tennessee first quarter 3.5. That's my favorite play of the week. So why wouldn't I put it in my parlay? So that's what I'm going through for those 3. And that's like plus 595. I think is what that comes out to. So.
I kind of like how you're thinking. All the games that you actually like, include them into your parlay. Nice job. I included the Colts in mine, so I'm kind of doing the same thing, but not totally. All right, that gets us to Justice, who I think is going to have an interesting parlay for us.
You love my parlays. Everybody, come on.
Let's hear it.
San Diego State at home against Toledo. Toledo off of a game against Ohio State. They let up 77 points. San Diego State is not good. I don't care. San Diego State money line, plus 125 against Toledo at home. Toledo's got to travel to the West Coast after playing Ohio State and get absolutely pummeled. Obviously, they got pumped up for that game. I think a letdown game, especially with the travel involved. Give me San Diego State plus 125. TCU minus 130 against SMU. I think TCU is a better team than we're valuing them at that line, so I'll take them. And then Clemson minus 278 with the money line. I think Lucas was right on point with what he said. I don't think I can take them with the spread right now, but I'll happily take them with the money line. And I think your odds right now, I calculated it. Your odds are at plus 442. So, you bet $100, you win $442, take home 542. So I like it. San Diego State's obviously the risk there, but that's also the value in it. That's where you're going to get that positive, because TCU is not so much a heavy favorite, but Clemson at 278 is not going to buy you many points. So yeah, that's my parlay. TCU, San Diego State, Clemson plus 442.
Let me throw a quick sweetener on you, see if you want to add it in your parlay. Brady Hoke wears his headset for the entire second half, plus 175.
Plus 175. Where can I grab that at?
Yeah, that's on the other Action Network.
Oh, yeah.
Network. All right. We get to the end here and we say good luck to everyone. And you guys, I'm the one that needs the good luck this time around. You guys have been proven your selecting acumen week in and week out. Anybody have any final thoughts?
Interested to see how our two picks go against each other here.
Yeah, the head-to-head stuff is going to be fun. So we'll see. After all this, I feel like I want to jump on Clemson, though, after listening to you guys. I liked it initially, and now I feel like I want to get in on that as well.
I think if Michigan covers, you might have to start talking about them as a national championship team. That's a huge line against a good team, in my opinion. So if they're able to cover that, especially because that's not a line reflective of bets. That's a line reflective of their systems. Like, that's what's projecting right now, is right around that 17 mark. I mean, it's projecting around the 14, but they're adding in the 3 for the home. So if Michigan can go out and cover that, I mean, they're continuing to do exactly what they're expected to do. And how many times do you do that in a row until someone's like, okay, this team is good? So I'm interested to see what happens there with the spread.
I'm going to leave that right there. I like it. I like the talk. All right, you guys, great luck to you, all of you, and everybody watching and listening. And we'll be back next Friday. See you later.